Begin by getting you details of the 2+2 dialogue between India and the United States. Amid the Russia-Ukraine war, there was increased focus on India's diplomatic policy. And there have been questions raised by the West before as well about India importing Russian oil. And here the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar gave the West a reality check. In a strongly worded response to the criticism, Jaishankar said that India's total purchases of Russian oil for 1 month was less than what Europe does in one afternoon. Jaishankar said that the attention then should be on Europe and that India's purchase of oil from Russia are for some necessary energy security. The foreign minister's comments come after US Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged that India should not purchase any additional oil from Russia. In fact, India recently indicated that the decision came for the country's own national interests in spite of Western sanctions against Russia. Earlier, the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki also clarified that India's energy imports from Russia were about 1 to 2% of the total imports. The United States has now clarified, saying that India importing Russian oil is not against the sanctions that have been imposed so far, and also now changing their stance, saying India should not buy any additional Russian oil.
If you are looking at energy purchases from Russia, I would suggest that your attention should be focused on Europe, which probably we do buy some energy which is necessary for our energy security. But I suspect, looking at the figures, probably our total purchases for the month would be less than what Europe does in an afternoon.
When it comes to oil purchases, sanctions, etc., I just note that there are carve-outs for energy purchases. Of course, we're encouraging countries not to purchase additional energy supplies from Russia. Every country is differently situated, has different needs, requirements, but we're looking to allies and partners not to increase their purchases of Russian energy.
Let's take this across to Kamaljit Sandhu for more details on the discussion on the Russia-Ukraine war, the sanctions, etc., the 2+2 dialogue. Kamaljit, India very clearly maintaining that our diplomatic policy isn't going to change. Our national interests come first. And what Jaishankar has done essentially is, wake up the West to what's happening in Europe before raising questions on India.
Yeah, in particular, India has reiterated its stance in the post-Cold War scenario. Remember, there's a fresh tug-of-war as far as countries are concerned. And many would say that India perhaps is not just an ally, but a partner with the United States. But it has its own interest as the center. And that is why, whether it's the oil or for that matter, energy, that becomes very key. And what S. Jaishankar has now reiterated is obviously a tongue-in-cheek remark about how India's energy purchase is comparatively much less as compared to Europe. So in that particular sense, US does understand it. However, they have their own demands. They don't want any further purchase of energy as far as Russia is concerned. Remember, similar towing of line was expected even in case of Iran, where there's Chabad port. There is obviously a barter system to ensure that the sanctions which have been put on Iran do not have its ramifications on India. But this one, because this is a fresh conflict, what we've seen about Russian invasion in Ukraine, about how India, without naming Russia, has condemned the killings in Bucha. They've also talked about an independent probe to be carried out. So India is towing a very tough line. However, they have maintained a neutrality. Several of the European nations and others have admired India's stance.
Yes.
But again, in between a tug of war, and we've seen the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov, who was in India, to ensure that India does not take a stance which is offensive to Russia. And we've seen that, whether it's extension of vote in international platforms. Now, India has reiterated its stance, but being a global strategic partner and in close coordination with US, the 2+2 dialogue taking place. And as far as space, education, as far as defense matters are concerned, all that's still taking place.
That's right. And what's very clear is that India is not going to give in to any sort of pressure, be it from the West, from the United States or from Russia. Thanks, Kamaljeet, for joining us with all of those details on that story. I want to focus now on also the virtual meet that happened last night between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Joe Biden. Again, the timing was significant because it is happening amid the Russia-Ukraine war, and that's what really topped the agenda. We're going to get you details of what Prime Minister Modi said and very clearly condemned violence, said that India is on the side of peace. He even raised the Bucha killings, the massacre, and condemned it. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also in his statement mentioned how he's had conversations with the Russian President Vladimir Putin and with Ukrainian President Zelensky, and has India's pitched in every way they can to ensure that dialogue leads to peace in this conflict. Let's listen in to exactly what Prime Minister Modi said, followed by the POTUS's statement.
आज की हमारी बातचीत ऐसे समय पर हो रही है जब यूक्रेन में स्थिति बहुत चिंताजनक बनी हुई है। कुछ सप्ताह पहले तक 20,000 से अधिक भारतीय यूक्रेन में फंसे हुए थे और इनमें से अधिकांश युवा छात्र थे। काफी मेहनत के बाद हम उन्हें वहां से सकुशल निकालने में सफल हुए। हालांकि एक छात्र ने अपना जीवन खो दिया। इस पूरे घटनाक्रम के दौरान मैंने यूक्रेन और रूस दोनों के राष्ट्रपतियों से कई बार फोन पर बातचीत की। मैंने न सिर्फ शांति की अपील की, बल्कि मैंने राष्ट्रपति पुतिन को यूक्रेन के राष्ट्रपति के साथ सीधी बातचीत का सुझाव भी रखा।
At the root of our partnership is a deep connection between our people, ties of family, of friendship, and of shared values. On that note, I want to welcome India's humanitarian support for the people of Ukraine who are suffering a horrific assault, including a tragic shelling on a train station last week that killed dozens of innocent children and women and civilians attempting to flee the violence. The United States and India are going to continue our close consultation on how to manage the destabilizing effects of this Russian war. And I'm looking forward to our discussions today. Mr. Prime Minister, our continued consultation and dialogue are key to ensuring the U.S.-Indian relationship continues to grow deeper and stronger, delivering our people and our global good that we all are seeking to manage, particularly in your part of the world.
And let's get you details of what's happening in the port city of Mariupol. Ukraine has dubbed this current operation, what's happening right now in Mariupol, as the final battle for the city. Russia has already claimed that this city is under their control. Strategically hugely important because it's the only gateway to the Sea of Azov. But in the last 5 weeks, because of relentless shelling and fighting, the port city of Mariupol has been completely battered. According to the Mariupol mayor, around 5,000 people, including 210 children, have died since the Russian forces laid siege to Mariupol. Now, there was a drama theatre that was in the heart of the city, which was serving as a shelter for hundreds of civilians. It was bombed by Russian troops, reducing it to nothing but rubble and debris. This theatre, once home to nights of revelry and art, is now left empty. You see the building in complete ruins. Over 300 people have reportedly been killed in bombings in Mariupol. About 140,000 people had fled Mariupol via the Sea of Azov. India Today's reporters have been tracking every single update from the ground in Ukraine, getting your first-hand accounts of exactly what's been happening. Moshmi Singh travelled to Mykolaiv, and here's what she found. Shelled, shaken, destroyed. Over a month of brutal assault on Ukraine has left many towns in ruins. Bashtanka, a suburb of Mykolaiv, is one of them. Non-stop shelling from Russian forces has almost reduced the city to dust. Mykolaiv itself is not spared. Relentless attacks by Russians have razed the Mykolaiv airport to the ground.
The sound of music greeted the customers as they reached the international airport of Mykolaiv. But now there is only sound of silence and destruction. This is the picture of an airport which was of great strategic importance. Only airport in this area that actually could have had modern facilities and heavy planes could land in this area. But just take a look. This is the view of the entry point. You enter from that gate. That is the gate, and the gate looks like this. The entire glass is, of course, shattered, and you entered, and you would see a modernized airport. But what you see is only destruction here. Some volunteers, their jackets also lying here, and glasses. We are told we cannot go inside because there are some active ammunition still. But Dimitro sir, who's the public relations officer, who's brought us here, getting you these exclusive pictures. Dimitro sir, the Russians have been targeting your airports, and this airport was bombed because they couldn't take control of it.
Yes, they don't have control of this airport, and when he misunderstands, they bombing airports. This is first and last airport international in Mykolaiv, and Mykolaiv region too.
In Bashtanka, residential areas have also been hit hard.
In good old days, this counter would provide heal and cure and medicine to the people who were sick. But you can see that this counter is turned into a rubble. Medicines burnt, destroyed pamphlets. This counter looks like one dilapidated shop. It doesn't even look like a semblance of a shop. And here you can see how people are picking up the pieces here. A doctor's coat, some medicines, some pamphlets, and pieces of decoration. This side was a pharmacy, and here what you see was a bakery shop that ran. It was a very famous bakery by the name of Small Bakery. Bekarna is what they call in their language. And this bakery used to serve pastries and muffins to children. It was a favorite joint for the people of Bashtanka, but perhaps they will have to live with this hopelessness for a while, because the Russian troops actually reached Bashtanka village hoping to reclaim Mykolaiv.
Russian shelling, however, hasn't broken Ukrainians' will. Ukrainian troops are fighting back the invaders in Mykolaiv. They've seized more than 115 tanks as well as trucks with heavy ammunition.
This is a symbolic picture of how the Russian forces are facing a stiff, aggressive Ukrainian defense force. This is a Russian truck, Ural, that you see on which we are standing, and how this has been completely destroyed after being bombarded. This truck was actually heading to a Russian base point where it was carrying cruise missiles, a lot of ammunitions, almost 80 ammunitions that it was carrying to target Bashtanka village. And here you can see that these broken parts, these plates, of course this has been sanitized, but 890 is the number that you see. Some signs of the manufacturing of this Russian truck that was carrying cruise missiles, we are told. And here on the tire, you can see that made in Russia, made in February 1995. So February 1995, made in Russian truck that is completely burnt. Right there, the steering wheel and the cabin completely destroyed. Here you can see that nothing is remaining. They had actually, the Ukrainian forces sanitized this entire area. This is the door that is actually jutting out of this truck, and of course the attempt by the Russian forces was actually defunct because of the alertness of the Ukrainian forces, who did air raids only after the Russian troops were fleeing. This truck was also fleeing from the location, but before that it met its fate. And here India today, in fact, is the only Indian crew to reach Bashtanka, which is on the outskirts, far away from Mykolaiv. But all the entire region of Mykolaiv is facing a lot of fire, a lot of battle, combat on the periphery, because the Russians are just on the doorstep at Kherson, and they want to take Mykolaiv, which is the last barrier standing, to capture the entire southern part of Ukraine and cut it off from the sea. With video journalist Parminder Sharma, getting you all the ground reports from the war zone in Mykolaiv and Ukraine for India Today.